Hello everybody, welcome back. This is part 2 of your freeform geode table. Just going to show the piece again here real quick. If you did not see part 1, please check the video's description for part 1 or click the little lowercase I in the right hand corner and that will get you a link to part 1 where we really laid the foundation and the base for how we were going to start this freeform geode tabletop. I wanted to make this look really royal and elegant looking, and I thought violet and gold were just going to be gorgeous together. So this is now my 3rd layer of resin. You can see in part 1 the first 2 layers that I do. And here in my 3rd layer, I'm just going to use a layer of clear resin. This is about 20 ounces of clear. I'm going to move it all the way up to my edges there. In part 1, you can see how I built this shape here with silicone caulk and a plastic sheet. We're just going to move around, make sure that that clear is getting all around this piece. Using a gloved hand, please make sure you are wearing protection. I like black nitrile gloves, they protect me the best, and I always use an organic vapors respirator. And if you want to know where I get all of my favorite tools and everything, it's usually Amazon, and I have that all linked below in every video description so you can see everything that I use. Please don't mind my messy table. I had all kinds of texture and goodies sitting there because sometimes I don't really know what I want to use until I'm actually in the piece and we're getting ready to lay the pieces in. So I had some mirrored glass there, I had some real crystal quartz, I also had some plastic vase filler gems. Using very, very light heat there to pop some bubbles, and neglecting to realize that I was using silicone caulk as well. Some of that caulk did actually singe to my piece, which I always say all the time, please don't use an open flame with your silicone molds. And then I went ahead and did it there. So in the center there, I did use real crystal quartz chips that you can get at DryerDaysArtStudio.com. And then I used some of my gold mine and gold cuttings for the gold, which you can also get at DryerDaysArtStudio.com. What you cannot get at DryerDaysArtStudio.com are these clear plastic gems here. I do order them in bulk a lot of the times off Amazon, or you can also get them at Hobby Lobby in their floral department. So now this is layer 4. So I have waited about 8 hours after I laid in the texture piece, and we're on layer 4. I knew this was going to be probably about 6 or 7 layers of resin. I wanted this table to be about an inch at least thick because I wanted it to be durable and sturdy. So I really waited in between each layer to let them cure. In some cases, I waited 12 to 24 hours in between layers. And we're just going to keep adding pigmented resin here because I did want this to be predominantly purple and gold, and I was seeing a lot of that white still in there. So we're going to kind of balance those colors out. That's what I love about layers too, is you can always balance your colors out and achieve that look that you're going for by adding more layers of resin. And just going super fast. This is layer 5, keeping going. And I did the texture in layer 3 because I knew that I wanted the texture to be mostly covered. In the end, I wanted this to be a flat top piece, so that's why I chose to do the texture in the middle, using some gold metallic in there. Okay, and now it is time to take this out. So this has about 5 layers on it. And I'm just going to, as I was pulling this aside, I noticed, hey, my caulk is actually coming off the plastic sheeting. I think I can just pull this all off in one foul swoop, which was kind of random and weird. I've never had that happen. So yeah, we can pull it all off just like that. It would not have come off if I had used like baking paper instead of the plastic sheeting, but in this case it did peel right off and that was fine. So you can see right there, that's where we got some of that silicone sticking on there from me using the heat of the torch. But that's okay, because we're actually going to cover up these edges, and I'm going to pick as much of that off as I can, so it's no big deal. And we'll just throw out this lovely white silicone ring that we have here. Okay, so you can see me there. I'm going to kind of go through and I'm going to pull off what I can of that, and we'll show you how I do my edges here. This needed a lot of good sanding on the edges, being that we did 5 pretty deep layers And with that silicone caulk having different striations and divots and stuff in the sides of it, some edges were really sharp on here. So I did spend quite a bit of time sanding this. Now I waited about 48 hours before I even took it out of our little mold that we made there. I waited about 48 hours. I let it sit flat on my table, which is completely flat, for about another 2 days before I even came in here to sand this, because you can see how I'm holding it. Even though I have gloves on, I did not want any fingerprints or anything getting onto the surface of this piece. You can see how glass-like and flat it is. It was looking gorgeous. So I did quite a bit of sanding. I spent a lot of time sanding. And then here I used some of my markers, some purple, some white, some gold, and really just followed around and made a shape. That white I ended up not liking too much, so I covered it later with gold. But I want to show you here how I do my edge. I'm using this soft gel and some of my gold metallic and a little bowl here. I'm going to get some of that product out into the bowl, and I'm going to mix in some of my gold metallic until I'm happy with the color. I needed quite a bit because this was a pretty big piece. I will link where you can find all of this again in the video description. Most of what I'm using is available at DryerDaysArtStudio.com, but some of it is not available, like the golden products and things like that. So I will link everything for you guys. And we're gonna just mix this up really well. I've time-lapsed it here. I would say the most important with these freeform pieces is just really making sure that they are cured, depending on how big you're going to make it. If you're going to make just little coasters, obviously they're thinner, smaller, it's not that big of a deal. But when you're making a bigger piece, definitely use some better high-grade tabletop epoxy, because this is functional art, right? So we don't want it scratching up. We want it to be durable. We want it to be able to handle use. You know, this is gonna be sitting out in a room somewhere where kids or pets might bump into it. So that's why I really wanted to sand those sides. I didn't want anything to be too scratchy or too sharp. And even adding this edge here too is gonna help soften that edge. So I'm just taking a sponge brush here and I'm applying this around the outer edge. And I'm gonna do this around the entire piece. And this is going to give us a really pretty textured gold edging on here. This was super easy to do, and the golden product was so nice, and I want to say wet, but just it was, and it just applied so easily and so nice as compared to maybe like a gilding paint or a marker. And the way that it dried on here, I did not have to do another coat of resin to seal it. I do want to mention that I did a final 6th layer of a flood coat over the top of this to cover those lines, because I knew I was going to have to sand it later, and I just wanted to mention that. And as you can see here, I'm bringing it up over the top and surface of the piece to give us some nice texture and highlight there. And gonna use my spatula to just add a little bit more in if that sponge missed any spots, making sure it's nice and saturated and that everything is covered and we don't have any see-through spots. I am so excited about this product right here. This is a rugged clear gloss varnish from Total Boat, and this has a really, really high UV resistancy. I wanted to use it on this piece because I plan on having this piece in my living room, which gets a ton of sun, and I don't want this to yellow at all. I will show you guys how I used it. So they recommended that I sand the whole surface first, which I did here, and then I'm going to clean it up with a wet cloth, and I did use some rubbing alcohol too to get that nice and clean and dry it out. Now I'm going to put a little bit here into a cup, and they recommend to use a sponge brush to apply it liberally across the surface of the piece here. It was recommended that I do about 5 coats, so I did. And I will say by the 5th coat, I did feel like it was looking kind of streaky, that it wasn't as glass-like as resin can usually get. So I decided that I was going to sand it again. I cleaned it off again with a wet paper towel and some rubbing alcohol. And then what I did was I put my gloves back on and I put some of the clear coat on top. And instead of using the sponge brush, I did this off camera. I just applied it with my gloved hand and got it really, really smooth across the whole surface. And it worked really well. And then here's my husband again with his power tools, drilling some holes because we were attaching the legs that I also got on Amazon, and I will link those for you as well below in case you like these hairpin legs. So there you can see the glass-like finish. You can see my window reflecting in it here. You can see that clear quartz in the middle along with that gold mine. I had some gold glass glitter in there as well. This was a really labor-intensive piece. This was 5 layers of resin and then 6 layers of that clear coat on top. This thing is pretty heavy, but I think it's beautiful. I love how it turned out. I hope you guys found this video informative and you enjoyed it. Please leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, guys. It really helps me out. And until next time, keep on pouring.